For some time now in Canada, the government as well as other media organizations have been really ramping up their racism and religious propaganda. According to outlets like the CBC, the Globe and Mail, and Huffington Post Canada to name a few, racism towards minorities is on the rise, especially towards Muslims. The City of Toronto and Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants have also joined in, posting signs at 150 TTC stations and bus shelters across the GTA with a pretty provocative message, and have also made a couple of dramatizations which you can view on their website, all in the name of eliminating Islamophobia and racism in our country. But what is Islamophobia exactly? As defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, Islamophobia is an irrational fear of, aversion to, or discrimination against Islam or people who practice Islam. This sounds fair enough. I think most people would agree that unfounded prejudice towards any race or religion is regressive and nonsensical. The problem is, Islam has given us a lot to be concerned about, and speaking out about this is not racist or Islamophobic, even though CBC and others want to make people feel that way. The main problem Canadians, Americans, and many Europeans have with immigration right now is not the fact that Muslims want to immigrate to the West. We want people coming to this country who will make us a more competitive and prosperous nation. That's how this country was built from the very beginning. The problem we have is the fact that time and time again people are getting raped, hurt, or killed by psychopaths who claim they are committing these terrible crimes in the name of Islam or ISIS, using the immigration routes from Islamic countries to smuggle themselves into the countries that they want to attack. There are numerous examples of this to choose from. Take for instance the 22-year-old Syrian refugee in Germany who built a bomb-making lab in his apartment and planned to attack a German airport, or the 17-year-old Afghan teenager who viciously attacked 4 people on a train with an axe in Germany while shouting Allah Akbar, which ISIS claimed responsibility for. A 15-year-old girl stabbed a police officer in the neck in northern Germany, which was also connected to ISIS. In the French city of Nice, 84 people were killed and hundreds injured after a man drove a refrigeration truck through a crowd. This attack was also linked to ISIS. In the US, we have incidents like the Ohio State University attack, where 11 people were injured when a Somali refugee rammed people with his car and charged passersby with a knife. Or the San Bernardino shooting, where a husband and wife shot and killed 14 people and injured 24 others. This is just a few of the many attacks that have been carried out by either immigrants or people who have strong connections to the Middle East, all of which have connections to ISIS. And I haven't even started into all of the stories of rape and sexual assault in Europe that are consistently being linked to refugees and immigrants coming from the Middle East. Sweden, who has taken in more refugees and immigrants from the East than any other developed nation relative to its population, is being absolutely hammered by sexual assault and rape cases. It's gotten so bad in one Swedish town that women are being told not to go out at nighttime. In 2015, an annual hate crime statistical report was put together by the Toronto Police. They found that Muslims, people who follow Islam, were actually not the ones suffering the most hate crimes. It was actually Jewish people that got the top spot. LGBTQ people were second, with Muslims taking third place. Yet there seems to be such a large push by the government and other groups to call everyone's attention to this Islamophobia issue. What about Jewish people? Why isn't the city of Toronto speaking up for them when they have an even bigger problem statistically than Muslims? I also wonder where the evidence of this Islamophobia is coming from. The way that the provincial and federal government are aggressively funding and pushing the issue could easily lead one to assume that we have a serious problem in this country, but I haven't seen any of it myself. In fact, I've personally seen Canadians either welcoming the refugees into their communities or not really paying much attention to any of it at all. Now, that's not to say that instances of racism never happen. It is doubtful it'll ever totally disappear, but the degree of racism that these groups like the Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants are trying to say are the norm is questionable at best. There are some popular news pieces that are often referenced when talking about racism towards Muslims in Canada, such as the mosque that was burned in November of 2015 that was deemed a hate crime, or the Muslim mother and child who were attacked in a supermarket. The media makes both of these appear as hate crimes, but if you read into the articles, they're forced to admit in both cases that neither have been officially linked to any sort of hate crime at all. Every claim is either alleged or suspected, but not proven. The thing that has me worried about all this is how Canadians who question or criticize some of the status quo issues in this country are running into serious legal trouble with Canada's Human Rights Commission for exercising their free speech. There have been a number of instances of this over the past few years. Canadian comic Mike Ward had to pay up to $180,000 for a joke he made about a disabled child in 2016. Gregory Allen Elliott endured years of legal trouble, lost his job, and almost faced 6 months in jail simply for having numerous debates with feminists on Twitter. And now we have Motion 103 being introduced into Parliament, created to combat systemic racism and religious discrimination, but no proven examples of this are given at all. Given the track record of government institutions like the Human Rights Commission, the results of this motion could paint a bleak picture for our already troubled free speech in Canada.